Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Water Research Foundation webcast on WRF 5189, Artificial Intelligence Adoption Framework for Water and Wastewater Utilities. I'm very excited to have you all here, and shout out to our Canadian subscribers who are participating on Canada Day. This is an interim report out, so you're going to be getting a sneak peek of what you can expect next year once this report is fully published. We have a fantastic speaker lined up today. This is our PI for the project, Prabhu Shadansekharan. I'm sorry for saying that wrong. He is the Vice President and Intelligent Water National Practices Lead at Arcadis. A few bits of housekeeping before we get started and get to the good stuff. You can submit your questions through the question box at any time. We will do a Q&A at the end of the presentation. And if we don't get to all of your questions, we'll make sure we follow up with you afterwards. Sliding and a recording of the webcast are available on our main website. You can also download the slides right now, as well as access the project's page under the event resources on the bottom left of your screen. A certificate of completion will automatically be generated after this webcast. If you have any questions, please contact Michelle Suazo. Her email is up on the screen right now. And at the very end, please stick around with us to fill out a quick survey so that we can make sure we're doing webcasts that matter and are as high quality as possible. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton to Prabhu.
Thank you. I'm trying to, okay, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here, and happy Canada Day to all our Canadian colleagues and friends who are able to attend today. We have a packed agenda today. As Sydney explained, this is an interim report out on what's to be expected out of this project. Let me start by sharing that, what we're going to cover today. This isn't, even though you saw the heading to be, or the topic to be, walkthrough of the framework, it's not just a walkthrough of a framework. It's a story about how this project helps the water sector meaningfully advance in its AI journey. We'll start with the objectives and outcomes of the project, explore briefly on what we learned from the industry surveys and interviews, zoom out quickly to see what's happening in AI globally as of mid-2025, and then zero in on why the water sector needs its own framework and approach. And we'll review the principles that shape the framework and walk you through the different stages of the framework and explain how it can be applied for the water utilities. All right, so let's begin with the project itself that initiated all of this in motion. This project 5189 sets out with three main objectives, as you see here, focused on assessing the current trends within the industry in terms of how we are applying AI analytics and so on and so forth within the water industry. Second one focuses specifically on creating a structured framework. Third focuses on applying the framework, as well as collecting some case studies on who might be using some advanced analytics and AI deployments within the water industry. Our team, as you can see, is composed of Arcadis partners shown here, Virginia Tech, Hazen and Sawyer, Bluefield Research, and close to 30 plus utilities who have been actively engaged in this one, and 15 plus vendors. All right, so let's see. Okay, what did we learn? As you saw in the previous slide, we had done several interviews and industry case studies. To design, why did we do that, right? To design something that works, we needed to hear directly from the industry. As I said, we conducted interviews and workshops across a range of utilities and partners. As we heard, a few consistent things came up. There's an experimentation happening, but it's not scaling. Data is everywhere, but it's often hard to trust or use. And many teams don't know where to begin. These insights directly shaped the structure of how we created this framework, and it all came out to be. All right, now that we have grounded ourselves in the project briefly and its objectives and what we learned from the utilities, I think it's worth pursuing to take stock of the broader AI landscape. because what's happening in AI globally right now directly affects what's possible and necessary in water. So, first, there is definitely a momentum, right? It's undeniable. We are seeing unprecedented investments in AI chips and infrastructure led by companies like NVIDIA, Microsoft, and startups backed by so many different wealth funds. The second is the line between the AI research and deployment is vanishing. Third, AI has become somewhat geopolitical. Nations are racing to build domestic capabilities in AI hardware, talent, and regulation, and utilities, especially public ones, sit right in the middle of that conversation. But if we think about it, for all this technological acceleration, the people side is struggling to keep up. Digital and AI skills are still scarce across most of the workforce, especially in the public sector. At the same time, new policies like the EU AI Act and the NIST AI risk framework are raising the bar for responsible use. And increasingly, water utilities are being asked to lead, not follow, in modeling safe, inclusive, and trustworthy AI adoption. And that's why the framework that's being proposed and being developed doesn't just focus on technology. It starts with the purpose and it ends with the people. And you will see that as we go through this presentation today. All right, so with all the momentum in AI across hardware, policy, and skills, you might be wondering, why do we need another framework? I have heard about different frameworks from ISO, NIST, EU, and so on and so forth. That's exactly the right question. And the answer is yes, there are excellent frameworks out there. But when we started listening to utilities and when we were interviewing and combing through the interview data, it was quite clear that water and wastewater systems have unique goals, risks, and constraints that most general frameworks don't fully address. So before we introduce the framework that we developed, let's briefly talk about why a sector-specific lens is not just helpful, but necessary. As I said before, there are many global frameworks out there, and what you see here are some of the examples of what you might come across when you think about digital and AI transformation globally. All right, so let's look at it. What are their limitations? These global frameworks are useful, but they often fall short for the water sector. They assume some commercial use cases, mature data ecosystems, and sometimes centralized IT teams. They don't account for the distributed nature of our utility operations, regulatory responsibilities, or the blended role of how we have different roles and responsibilities, operators, engineers, and customer service agents, and planners, and technicians, and so on and so forth. In short, they offer strong principles, but day-to-day guidance for public utilities, especially in water and wastewater, navigating the real infrastructure, people, and service delivery challenges is not existing. So instead of, as I mentioned about some of the limitations before, instead of reinventing the whole wheel, as we were thinking about developing a framework for water and wastewater utilities, we took a different approach, right? We studied these global frameworks, observed their strengths, and then reimagined what they would look like if they were to be rooted in the water sector. What emerged is a framework shaped by water and wastewater realities, meaning the operational complexity, the regulatory responsibility, cross-functional teams, and the imperative to serve the public good. It's aligned with the best practices in AI ethics, digital governance, and public accountability, but grounded in the infrastructure, culture, and the decision-making needs of water and wastewater utilities. So, how does this all come together? The framework that I'm going to be walking you all through has what we call 5 stages, designed to help utilities start where they are, grow at their own pace, build toward long-term, mission-aligned AI adoption. And that's what we're going to be walking you through in the next several slides. All right, the 5 stages, right? The 5 stages that I mentioned earlier. So these 5 stages that you see on the left side are the heart of the framework. They reflect what we heard from the industry in terms of a need for a structured but flexible path forward, even when we are developing the objectives and then responding to the RFP, when we are proposing on this project. From initial inspiration and alignment to surfacing some practical needs, building foundations, launching real solutions, and finally scaling them with trust and impact, this isn't just a maturity model. I'm sure you have heard about lots of maturity models. On the other hand, it is an end-to-end approach for advancing digital and AI adoption in a way that works for water and wastewater utilities. In the next few slides, I will walk you through some of these stages in detail. All right, so Spark is stage one, right? So stage one is where all begins. It doesn't start with the technology, but with the intention. Spark is about igniting the curiosity, aligning the leadership, and setting a meaningful direction for AI within a water and wastewater utility. So, as I said before, Spark is the foundation. Spark is foundational. It's where we light the fire, so to speak. At this stage, I feel like the goal isn't technical readiness, but organizational curiosity and alignment. That's why we focus on establishing shared language, purpose, and awareness around AI analytics and digital transformation. The primer that you see on the right side here is a guidance document or a tool designed to meet teams where they are, helping them demystify AI, showing its potential, grounding it in the context of water and wastewater. This stage, to me, I think it's very essential because without shared purpose and leadership buy-in, everything that comes after risks becoming fragmented or disconnected from what really matters to the utility. All right, so moving on, right? So once there is a spark in the organization with the common understanding and baseline awareness of what the world of possibilities are, what the contextual references to using AI within water and wastewater utilities, the next step is to look inward, meaning reveal step or stage is about surfacing the real needs, opportunities, and pain points from the perspectives of your people and systems. What you see here, I know we as part of the framework, we have to have some kind of a maturity assessment to bring everybody together in a place, having a common understanding, right? Once a foundational understanding is in place, well, thanks to stage one, the next logical step is to ask, where are we really, right? That's what this stage is all designed to do. The stage introduces a structured maturity assessment to help utilities reflect honestly on where they stand in adopting AI and analytics across 4 essential dimensions that you see here. And to make this relatable, what you see on the right side is a little analogy or metaphor, right, that talks about the 4 dimension, how it's aligned to the needs of the framework. The strategic alignment leadership is somewhat similar to having a conductor in the score. Without directional leadership, it's just noise. And then you have digital and data foundations, which are the instruments and acoustics. The best musicians, can't perform well with the broken tools or bad sound. And then we have workforce skills and culture, or like the musicians themselves, the willingness and ability to play together is almost everything, right? Last but not the least, the governance, policy, and oversight is the sheet music and the rules, guiding everyone to stay in sync, on tempo, and within ethical boundaries. So together, these categories give a complete picture of not just technical readiness, but organizational readiness, a holistic view that's essential for making effective decisions about where to go next. I think I went a little bit more into the analogy side of things, so I wanted to create a few more things just for the fun of it. So these are 2 other examples just to demonstrate in different ways, to reinforce the same idea from the last slide. Maturity is not just a bunch of checklists, but it's a journey. Like a self-driving car, you need alignment, data, skills, and governance to move safely and with purpose. Or think of a growing plant without the right soil, light, and care, it won't thrive. These analogies remind us that advancing AI adoption takes coordination, the right environment, and nurturing, not just tools. All right, so as we were going through this framework and we are in stage 2 where we are talking about the maturity model, right? There are several maturity models. I'm sure you're wondering, like, I've seen so many maturity models. In fact, I've created one in my previous project, right? So as we were developing this maturity assessment, we knew we had to get to the foundations, right? So what you see here are some 10 principles to guide its structure and tone. These weren't just abstract ideals, they were practical design choices, in my opinion. For example, we prioritize clarity over complexity, meaning keeping it simple to ensure this framework and the language and the maturity assessment and the model works across all roles, from operators to executives. We made sure the levels show logical progression with no overlap. Each step represents a meaningful shift in capability. Also, whether you're a large utility or a small department, the same principles apply. All right, here is a quick high-level overview of what this maturity model looks like. So it's built around 5 levels of progress, starting from level 1, where AI analytics are not yet a priority, to level 5, where AI is fully embedded, trusted, and aligned with all of your service delivery business functions within your organization. So each level represents a meaningful leap, not just in technology, but in leadership, culture, and operations. And this structure somewhat repeats across the 4 key categories that you see on the left side. Let's take one example: alignment and leadership. At level 1, there is no shared understanding. AI might be mentioned informally, but leadership hasn't made it a focus. At level 3, AI is part of a strategy. Leaders are not just talking about it, they're assigning resources, setting goals, and aligning departments. And by level 5, AI becomes part of leadership identity. It's connected to the mission, equity, and public impact. So this kind of advancement applies across all 4 categories. The idea is to help teams reflect on where they are, build a roadmap, which we will talk about in the later stages of the framework, that's specific, structured, and achievable. All right. We as we were introducing the framework, as I was explaining how there were several other frameworks, naturally people might be questioning, there are so many other frameworks. How is this framework aligned or different, and what's going on with this versus the other ones? So here, as we noted earlier, right, this maturity model isn't just built in isolation. It draws directly from other frameworks that you see here and their principles, because as I mentioned before, they have really good guiding principles. How do we want to use those guiding principles but make it contextually useful to water and wastewater utilities is what we applied in developing the framework. So this slide is just a quick reminder that our framework maps to these broader standards while staying grounded in the water sector's unique context. So as utilities grow, they're not just maturing internally, they're also preparing for alignment with national and international expectations. One of the other things is applicability. This is something that comes across almost on all project objectives for Water Research Foundation, or anywhere we have discussions about advancing any new technologies, which is scalability. Scalability was a priority in developing this framework. While it hasn't been fully tested across all utility types, the how-to guidance has been intentionally designed, or will be prepared to make sure it accommodates the different sizes and structures, how to actually implement this framework within organizations, whether you are a small utility with a limited staff or a large regional agency with specialized teams. The framework meets organizations where they are, offering clear, adaptable pathways for moving forward. This flexibility ensures that no utility is left behind simply because of its size or capacity. The structure stays the same, but the implementation can be tailored. That's the bottom line. All right, so we're moving on to the next one. Once we understand where we are, the next step, meaning once you have understood where your maturity is within your organization. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention in my previous one, as part of stage 3, not only will the framework will be asking you to identify where you are, but at the end of stage 2, you will have an opportunity to envision what the future is going to be. For example, on category related to data and information management. If you are at level 3, what is your next vision for a year or 3 years and 5 years from now? So you are going to use all that information as you are moving into the stage 3, which is what I call shape. So once we understand where, as I said, where we are, the next step is to start shaping where you want to go, which means in this stage, it's all about identifying the high value, feasible use cases for AI, analytics, and digital transformation, and exploring the right models for implementation. So let's take a look at how utilities can move from insight to actionable strategic investments. And that's what this stage is all about. All right, what you see here are the 4 steps that are part of the stage 3, which is the shape. As I said before, shape is where ideas become investments or meaningful use cases. Water and wastewater utilities face a constant stream of challenges, whether it's related to operations, customer service, internal business processes, regulations, or compliance, reporting, so on and so forth. Staff often have creative, insightful ideas for improvement, but sometimes, these ideas don't always make it to the structured plans or budget. And we want to make sure when it comes to AI adoption, analytics, advancing digital transformation, this stage is designed to fix that issue. So stage 3 walks utilities through 4 practical steps. First, utilities will engage in what we call the surface and select opportunity space, where you are gathering real world frustrations and challenges from the organization. This ensures that the use cases that you will be developing are grounded in actual need, not just a hype. And the second, using all the pains and challenges and frustrations that you identify, you shape those into use cases, clearly defining what problem you are solving, what AI-enabled solution might look like, and where it actually creates value. This is where all these ideas, 1 or 2 ideas, turn into something tangible and potentially fundable. The third one underscores the importance of identifying what is the value of this use case, meaning looking at how each use case aligns with your strategy. How is it going to benefit the stakeholders? How it's improving operations, how it's supporting key decisions. There are criteria that you will be using to score the value that's being gained or potentially to be gained because of this use case. This helps avoid shiny object syndrome and ensures we focus on what truly matters. And fourth, you focus on the feasibility. Once you have understood, these are the value that we are going to gain from this use case, then we focus on, can I do this one? What's the feasibility of getting this implemented? Examining whether each use case is actually doable, given current systems, skills, leadership support, funding opportunities, and so on and so forth. This helps teams identify quick wins, spot critical gaps, plan the work in a way that's realistic. In short, the stage turns scattered pain points, right, which is what we started early on in that step 1, those scattered pain points into structured, strategic opportunities, the kind that can actually move forward. All right, so we use a lot of numbers. We live by numbers, right? So what you see here is a scoring methodology. I'm sure many of you might have seen a version of it. Conceptually, these are the same, but how it's going to be different is the questions and the way we evaluate score the value and the feasibility are going to be very contextually from the context of water and wastewater utilities. Scoring is what transforms a list of ideas into a strategy. That's why the framework emphasizes evaluating both value and feasibility. Oftentimes we focus on just the value. Sometimes you forget the feasibility of it. So that's why we have the scoring focused on both items, value and feasibility. The high value ideas that aren't feasible today might need enabling conditions. This is an opportunity to identify those things, right? And feasible ideas with the limited value may not justify investment. So by scoring each use case on these 2 axes, utilities can focus on the sweet spot, ideas that matter and are ready to move forward, while also planning for those that need staging or support in the future. So this structured approach helps avoid bias, elevate cross-functional insight, and support transparent decision making. All right. So far, we have seen what? Three things, right? Stage one, which is bringing everybody to the same page, creating this baseline awareness of what the world of possibilities of using AI terms and technologies and all of that, good ones. Stage two focuses on revealing your current maturity, not just at the organizational level, but also at different teams, depending on the size of the organization, and then assigning some kind of a vision for your future maturity. Stage three, we looked at now that we know where maturity is in terms of these four different categories for us to advance AI and digital transformation within our organization. What are our pain points? How can we turn these pain points into valuable, feasible use cases? And that's what we saw in the first three stages. So now stage four, which is the launch pad. Stage four is where the real work begins, meaning after identifying and scoring use cases, this stage helps utilities move from evaluation to execution. I'll tell you what the differences are between identifying use cases versus what's happening in this phase. The focus here is on grouping related ideas. Sometimes we find similarities, but one use case from one team have similarities with another use case. Maybe one who focused on the collection system might have similarities on what the treatment plant is trying to use. So this is the stage where you would like to actually group those related ideas, sequencing them, developing a practical, fundable roadmap, not just a list of favorites. It's about aligning with real projects, people, and platforms, and identifying what's needed. All right, so as I said, this is the place where we're moving from use cases to practical roadmap. This stage is all about turning ideas into a roadmap you can actually execute. It's where use cases are organized, prioritized, and staged, not just by what's interesting, but by what's valuable, feasible, and fundable. So this stage, we anchored this stage in practical principles, like starting with the end in mind, which is the roadmap, making it possible, making it feasible, making it actually deployable, aligning with real world capacity, and identifying quick wins alongside long-term goals. The way this stage gets executed is by, you plot these use cases on a value feasibility matrix, similar to what you saw in the previous one. Then group related ideas into meaningful clusters. Apply filters in terms of, urgency, risk, or other strategic drivers. Sequence the work and define enablers, because the feasibility identifies it's possible, but you also need to identify how can enable it's feasible, but I want to make sure it's enabled. And that's what this stage is all about. Ultimately, you identify the resources need to mobilize, meaning assigning owners and aligning bundles and so on and so forth. The result, isn't a stack of ideas. It is a strategic portfolio ready for action, tailored to your utilities, timing, talent, and tools. So what you see here is a quick example, a very small, short version of what that roadmap could look like. That's easy. That can be easily communicated with everybody within the organization and get some buy-in. This is what stage four ultimately produces, a clear, actionable roadmap that's more than just a list of use cases. Here, you can see how use cases have been grouped into strategic clusters, phased delivery waves, and aligned with enablement needs. Each cluster reflects shared goals or systems, and each wave considers timing, resources, and feasibility. So this format not only guides internal action, it also supports communication with leadership, boards, and anybody who's funding these projects and sponsors. It turns ideas into a portfolio that's ready to move. All right. So having done, having finished this kind of a roadmap with all the action items and clusters of projects and waves in terms of the timing and resources and feasibility, the next one is basically you've started implementing it, right? With the roadmap in hand, the final stage is about execution learning. Elevate is where AI and analytics are implemented, adapted, and scaled, and not just as projects, but as part of how the organization works. And evolves probably where you're tracking a lot of these initiatives that you plan to do, making sure it's moving in the right direction, identifying any blocks and risks that probably didn't encounter while you planned these initiatives and these waves of projects? That's what this is all about. So Elevate is about, more than just launching projects. It's about sustaining momentum and accountability. This is an example of how utility might track progress across its roadmap, seeing what's in motion, what's completed, and what still needs support. It helps teams stay focused, adjust when needed, and ensure that AI and analytics efforts remain aligned with strategic goals as they evolve over time. All right. And then, looking at it from a subscriber perspective, there are so many initiatives that are going on. AI and conversations regarding digital transformation, we hear it everywhere in the news and conferences. There's one that I'm attending tomorrow too, right? There's so many things going on. Even within WRF, there are so many initiatives that are ongoing that happened earlier that are running parallel right now. So the question we asked ourselves was, okay, how is this framework? How can this be more of an umbrella framework that allows for other projects to come together? Meaning the outputs of the other projects, which are reports, are best practices that are coming out from other places, can be integrated. And that's what you see here. You see here are the list of different wastewater research foundation projects, right? So this framework isn't just for individual utilities. It's also designed to serve as a governing structure that brings together insights and outputs from across all bodies of work. So it helps ensures that what we learn across projects from WRF and other places doesn't stay siloed, but feeds directly into a coordinated roadmap for digital and AI adoption in the sector, in our water industry. Realizing the value. At its core, this framework isn't just about technology. It's about, in my opinion, about people. Its value depends on cross-functional teams coming together, whether it's operators, IT, OT, engineers, planners, analysts, and leaders, each bringing their perspectives and expertise. AI adoption is not something one person or one department can do alone. It takes coordination, trust, and a shared commitment to purpose. And the framework is here to guide that collaboration, helping teams ask the right questions, build momentum together, and make decisions that are smarter, faster, and more aligned with public service. Because in the end, the transformation isn't powered by algorithms, it's powered by people. So this is just a quick example or a snapshot of what it actually looks like when stage 3, which is the identifying the use cases and shaping the use cases, might look like. To shape meaningful grounded use cases, you need a diversity of voices from operations, engineering, and different teams within the organization. Engaging the right mix of people ensures that what gets shaped in stage 3 isn't just technically viable, but it's also relevant, support, and ready to be implemented across the organization. Excuse me. All right, so to bring it all together, this framework is in a report to sit on a shelf on twisters. It's a tool for action. It's designed specifically for the water and wastewater sector. And as you see the prompts that you would be offered as guidance to use this framework, you will see how the questions are more focused on water and wastewater industry, grounded in utility challenges and built to scale across different sizes and capabilities. It draws from the best global frameworks while staying practical, flexible, and human-centered. But its success depends on people, on teams coming together across functions, surfacing challenges honestly, and excuse me, and co-creating solutions that are both meaningful and doable. Whether you were just started or ready to launch, this framework meets you
Hey everyone, sorry about that. We in Northeast Virginia and Southern Maryland are facing some thunderstorms right now, and I believe Prabhu just lost power. So he should be joining us in a second. He's going to be rejoining. And so in the meantime, we've got some questions about how AI can relate to water and things like that. So I do want to highlight a couple of the projects that WRF has going on right now that can maybe provide additional foundational support. WRF 5321 is on applications for generative AI. This project just in May had a similar interim report out. So this could be a really great resource for the person that asked this question about how AI can be specifically applied to water. In that webcast, we had 2 utilities specifically come and present on applications that they have. And so Prabhu is working with that team, as well as a couple of our other projects to make sure that all of the work is integrated. Additionally, I'm hoping Prabhu will talk about it more in the Q&A, but we will have, he has another project, 5178, on workforce, and it's really about tying in the skills so that you can follow all of this framework together and have all of the support that you need to create really great systems. Prabhu, have you been able to join us yet? No. Okay. Let me look at the questions and see if I can answer any others for us. Okay, so there's a question about how do companies who are far ahead of the curve help? I think that's a really great question and something that WRF would love to pull people into. So, for example, we've got this project, and Prabhu is actively looking for utilities or other organizations who are doing AI to participate in interviews and things like that to collect feedback. So if you are ahead, please reach out to us. We are happy to take your input, perhaps talk about other projects you can get involved in. And we've got Prabhu back, so I'm going to pass the baton back to him so he can finish his presentation.
All right, so the timing couldn't have been any better. There are so many thunderstorms here. It's yeah. All right, thank you, Sydney. I think I was just basically wrapping up the last slide. I'm glad that the timing was really good. So what I was basically trying to say, whether you're just starting or ready to launch, the framework meets you where you are. Once we have this framework fully set and ready, it's been designed to ensure that it can be used by utilities of any sizes, regardless of what's going on within the technology. Because I've seen this many times, when we work with the clients, when we work with utilities, it doesn't matter what type of technology advancements are going on. If we have the right questions, right people in place, with the right set of steps in place, it actually makes the end product looks good, and the way they have the right projects identified and so on and so forth. So with that, I think that was the end of my presentation. So I'm glad I was running ahead of time this time, so I was able to cover what I wanted to cover. Happy to take any questions and explain anything that you may have.
Thanks, Prabhu. That was really great. Glad that you're able to join us. We can hear the storms all around you, so it's definitely intense in Maryland right now. Why don't we start with just some basics, because we are getting a few questions on what is the main purpose of AI in water. So could you provide maybe just a few different applications of how AI can be used within a water treatment plant or wastewater treatment plant, and just different and unique ways that you're seeing utilities apply it today?
Great question. I think that's a very fundamental question, foundational in many ways. Given that just in general, AI, when we started this project, I think we focused specifically on machine learning, right? That's how it all started. That was where we were 2, 3 years ago, applying machine learning techniques for better decision making, for treatment optimization, or predictions. For example, flow prediction is one of the common use cases that I see when it comes to wastewater treatment application and loads, basically, right? So once they have a better understanding of it, it allows the operators and the teams to run their plants better. That's one aspect of it. Same goes for water treatment to the dosing management, which is still, I feel like it's still a trial and error in many places, but it's starting to get better when it comes to dosing optimization within the water treatment plants. Those are immediately on the water side of things. But in running pump stations, again, the pump run times, sequencing your pumps, most of the times they were all on timed control. So coordinating the advances happening in the controls side of things, as well as in the decision making using machine learning, I think there are a lot more opportunities on one side of it. But given all the Gen AI stuff, the LLMs are making the power of conversational engagement. What we thought we needed to build dashboards and what using special teams, now you probably use conversational engagement with some of these LLMs to create dashboards or results that are specific to you. It makes the access to the results faster to the end users of the water and wastewater utilities.
Just because we're getting so many questions about this, do you want to talk a little bit about how AI can also capture pictures and the different things it can do with that? Because I know that's something that small utilities are finding really, really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, because of the multimodal aspect of it, this is where I feel like the power of generative AI and then agentic AI. One of the chapters in our AI primer is going to be that, focused on what is the power of these agentic ones and generative AI ones. Because of the multimodal, meaning it can consume any type of information, whether it's documents, pictures, and videos, and voices, whatever you throw at it, right? It is able to consume all of that, give you information related to whatever you're looking for. Just me playing with these LLMs in the last, just for general purpose too, but you have to be really cognizant of it will sometimes give you wrong information. Those are some things that need to be aware of when we are exploring the use cases for AI. So anything that you want to use, for example, if you have a bunch of documents, if you have a whole bunch of PDFs that you wanted to get some insights from or have it comb through it, now it becomes so easier, right? You don't have to have somebody look through each PDF and find out word search, any of those things. You can upload them on any of the LLMs right now and then find information. I think the time to finding information has been shortened because of these tools and technologies right now.
That's great. And just even the ability to take a picture of something that's handwritten and have it move that to Excel is a really great advancement for the sector. So I'm going to transition us now back to your framework now that we've got a little bit of that foundational. And so one question we've got is, it almost seems like this planning framework could equally substitute as a water utility digitalization framework, as opposed to just on AI. Do you agree? Any additional comments on that thought?
Absolutely. So though it's called AI, as we start to describe in the report and in the framework document itself, they will see it's analytics and AI together. The questions on each stage focuses on the whole digital and AI transformation together. It has questions related to not just software aspects of it, but also what hardware systems that need to be in place. So it's more holistic. The short answer is absolutely. So there is no need to make any changes to it in terms of the title is catchy and all of that, but the framework can be applied whether you are looking for digital transformation, AI transformation, or advancing analytics. And that's why this is more universal from the perspective of advancing. I want to call it maybe advancing how we intelligence within water industry, right? So it's very holistic and universal, easily applicable for any use case too.
Great. And another one kind of on that same line is, who's tested your framework? Have utilities used it already? Is that part of this interview process that's been mentioned?
Yeah, so we are still finishing up the framework development. I think the next step is to actually test the framework with them. I mean, testing the entire framework is a big effort, right? We created it such that it's not, oh, have few people come and do it in a week. No, it's not going to happen like that. As you saw, each stage is intense. Without spending time in understanding what the needs are, even to, starting from stage one, creating the awareness, it's not going to happen. We have few utilities that will probably be testing, at least the maturity aspect of it to begin with. Especially the maturity model is easy to test, and that's one aspect. The way it's going to be tested is based on different utility sizes. That's the way we want to do it. Even as I was saying, 5039, when we developed a little framework, we talked about running this big maturity assessment at the highest level may not sometimes actually truly give you what you want to do on individual teams. So one of the recommendations in the framework document, I know we didn't get into the details of each stage, is about when you are a medium-sized utility. This is your recommendation. You want to do this at one higher level with the leadership team, but also if you have multiple teams, you want to start with, have it done and compare it, have a scoring scheme there to see, even within your organization, what the variances of this maturity looks like. So the plan is to test it. And on small utilities, obviously you can't run all these big workshops. So we have a skin down, maybe a quick scan version of it to go through a quick assessment too. So yeah, we'll soon be doing that.
Great. And within your framework, can you talk about how cybersecurity considerations are being incorporated? Because that's always one of the big, probably 3 questions when you're talking about AI.
Absolutely. So the stage 2, let me go back to the slide. So you see the shape, the use cases here, right? And this is where, am I showing my screen? Okay, yeah, the shape, the use cases is where you're actually defining many elements of it. I didn't get into the details of each one of them because it has like 5 or 6 items right there. One of them is about the data, information, cybersecurity, all of that. So you are going to be evaluating what the needs of the use case for you to have a cyber secure one, as well as when you're doing the scoring of the feasibility, right? That's another place where you will be evaluating, scoring it based on where you are in terms of cybersecurity. The goal of the framework is not to give you directions on how to do cybersecurity, right? That's what I mean by it's a separate one. The framework allows you to give you directions on what are the different things you need to be considering so you don't forget about it when you're evaluating use cases, and it's consistent across any number of use cases regardless of the organization size. And that's why we set it up this way, and cybersecurity is part of one of the elements of the use case evaluation too.
And I think another big question, and one I prepped you for, is kind of data cleaning, all of that. What is the importance of data availability to training AI models, and is there a minimum data requirement that you think needs to be there?
Well, that gets yeah, you are right. You did prep me up for these kind of questions. So that is on a use case by use case. I think it comes down to how much data you have available, what algorithms you're using, even in the whole split between the training data versus the test data. It's very bespoke. I think that's another different conversation related to how much you need or what you need. Those are some of the best practices we'll be including as part of the AI framework, right? It's not, so that's part of stage 1, in my opinion. As an utility, as you are starting to embark on it, you probably would want to have all these conversations educated to your teams, making sure, hey, this is what machine learning means. For example, if you were to do a treatment plan optimization using existing data, purely data driven, this is how you do it. And 51, 29 would be a good example, 21, right? And as I showed in the last slide here, yeah, this one. So this one, as you can see, how each stage relates to different aspects of it. As you can see, the 51, 41 or 51, 29, my screen is small here, so I cannot read. But that two other projects actually discusses in detail about how to apply machine learning, what the stages of machine learning are going to be, how to do the whole data cleaning aspects of it, all of that. In addition, the 5294, which we are beginning about to start working on, focuses on the data governance aspect of it, data management aspects of machine learning, AI for treatment optimization. So the best practices that are coming out of it will feed information into people, into the framework, so that when they are going through an exercise, identifying, okay, we're going to do a treatment plan optimization. Okay, this is what you need to be considering. Do we have all these questions? Do we have all this data in place? That would be part of, when they are evaluating the use case, right? The stage 3, where, okay, what is the feasibility of getting this done? Do we even have the data? If we don't even have the data for this one, or even if we don't even have the skills internally to do these things, or if you don't have the IT/OT systems. So that's where the feasibility come into place. I know we didn't get into the details of what feasibility assessment looks like for each use case. It dives into the details of several different elements, not just technology, but also cybersecurity and people, strategic alignment, leadership buy-in, even funding. So there are so many aspects that they have to go through it, and it's consistent regardless of what use cases. I know I'm referring this back to all these things. I think I want to clarify that the framework is going to the intent of the framework is to help utilities, regardless of where they are in terms of the maturity or how much they know about applications of AI, to start their journey wherever they are, and use so many different resources. And that's my point. Even in my last slide, as I said, it is not an overnight journey, right? It is a journey, and it requires a lot more of these activities to happen. Otherwise, we will continue to have the risk of these, disjointed efforts and not having coordination among leadership and different teams together. That's what will happen. That's what we're trying to avoid. That's one of the goals of this framework. Hello? Am I still here?
Looks like maybe Sydney's frozen this time.
Oh, okay.
You can continue on. Any other questions down below?
I see one question related to Bruce asked a question related to cultural changes needed in utilities. Great question. I would actually make a reference to the 5178, which focuses on the upskilling and reskilling. One of the skills-related skills, I would say culture is as part of, ability to change. That it's a big skill that we need to train everybody. There is going to be a very detailed framework that's going to come out of it that explains what does it mean to build a utility that needs to adapt to these changes, and what does culture mean and skills mean. So that would be a place. That's what right now is going on.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yes, I can hear you.
There you are.
Okay, I lost power. I'm back.
You did too.
Yes. So we're gonna maybe wrap up with one more question that I think kind of ties us, because you were talking about this digital journey, and you got to start on it somewhere. Everyone's at a different place. We're going to be on these digital journeys for the next 20, 30, 40 years and just really chugging along. And so that really leads us into the skill set question. What should utilities be doing right now so that they can adopt your framework, so that they can really engage with it? What do they need to be doing with their employees? How should they be prioritizing hiring? I know you've got another project that touches on this, so I'd love to kind of see the connection between the framework and this hiring and kind of wrap us all up.
So that is, It is quite overwhelming. I don't know if I cannot if I should or should not say it. It is quite overwhelming, right? Because the industry and the technologies are moving so rapidly on a daily basis. We are just flooded with new technologies. How do you keep up with it? I see. My only recommendation is to at least have some kind of a basics of AI literacy. There are several resources out there to curated content that you can, if you have access to your LinkedIn Learning, maybe identify a few courses that are essential for your employees to learn about it, so that they know what it means to use AI, as well as some things related to the ethics and ethical use of AI. That's an aspect that people need to at least thinking about it. What are the limitations of especially because that's what everybody's at least faced with on a daily basis. They're not working in Python scripting on machine learning or any of those things, but everybody is exposed to that. So having that basic awareness, the digital literacy, and then AI literacy would be something. In any way, if you can start within your organization, find a team that probably wants to do it first. That would be my recommendation, and then they can actually organically recommend this to other people, so that it's a shared experience through peers, as opposed to making a requirement by the leadership. I know we'll have more coming out of that. I'm hoping that this and that everything comes together, so it helps our utilities. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Prabhu. This has been a great webcast. Thank you to the audience for sticking with us. I know we've had some technical difficulties, so we really appreciate you sticking with us to the end. There are still a handful of questions we did not get to. I promise we'll get back to you. We've got great answers. We're excited to continue the conversation. As Prabhu's mentioned, he's got other projects with WRF on the AI space. We really encourage you to look at those, as well as a few others we've got going on. So if you've got questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Sydney Samples, or Prabhu directly. We are happy to continue to have these conversations offline. So with that, please fill out the survey at the end to let us know what you thought of this webcast, additional topics you'd like to hear about. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for your attention and time.